Hey, we're gonna get into some fun business buying stuff. See if I can find a good spot to hang out here. And I'm going to, let's see, let's do this. Let's do this, guys. What do y'all think? It's a beautiful day. Ah, man, I haven't done video in a while. And had a really great call today with one of my entrepreneur friends that is currently living in South America. And it's like, you know what? I met him. I was speaking, actually, when I was speaking down in Colombia. He got to hear me give a talk, and he was asking about some things around a deal that he's taking a look at. And I think when you're getting started in this process, there's just so many tiny little things that can become hiccups for you. So I'm sorry, I got started with this without introducing myself. I am Ace Chapman. I like to say that A stands for assets, cash flow, and equity. And that's my goal. My goal is to increase your cash flow, increase your assets, increase your equity. And I put even though it's assets, cash flow, equity, I like to put cash flow first because that's the most important thing. Cash flow is what's going to give you freedom. But before we get into any of that, I want to welcome you to the video. If you've never bought a business before and you're interested in doing so, you're definitely in the right place with the channel. I've been doing this for over 20 years now. It's just a lot of fun. I feel very fortunate that so many people are now interested in buying businesses, and while there are so many people that are interested, most people will never buy a business because of a lot of these headaches. I was just traveling, hanging out. Speaking of traveling, a little airplane in the background. So I was just traveling, hanging out with some folks. I think between the um, eight or nine of us, we closed couple $100 million worth of deals in the last year. And that was one of the things we were talking about. The statistics have not changed. You look at the trends, and you can go to Google and literally look up the amount of people that are searching how to buy business, that kind of thing. Look at the growth of influencers like Cody Sanchez. What has happened is that there's way more interest than ever before. And guess what? It hasn't even changed 0.01% the number of deals that are closing. So you got to ask yourself, man, so many people that are trying to buy businesses, why are so few, basically none? There's no additional people that are closing deals than there were 5 years ago or 10 years ago. And the amount of interest, the amount of people taking courses is literally 100-fold. So I want to go back to the basics. A lot of the stuff that you're paying to get in, and I don't talk a lot about the basics, unfortunately, because we're just doing so many things now. But I think there are people that are charging for courses. That if you're paying for a course, you probably get all that information on my Patreon for $25. What I want to help people do is like execute at the higher level of creating an acquisition holdco, like getting beyond that. But today we are talking about doing your first acquisition. And I think it's the most important one. So the first thing that you've got to consider is what type of business do you want to buy? Many folks that I speak to, and a lot of times, I'll jump on the call with some of the Patreon folks that are doing deals, and they most of the time just don't have a clear answer to the question of what type of business, what kind of target are you going after? I want to cover a little bit around that. So buying a business that you understand, I think, is crucial. One of the things that we were talking about today on a call is a guy was looking at the deal, and there are kind of two things that I want to know. The first is that, I want you to try to find two or three categories of businesses that you understand. The second thing is you should be looking at a lot of different deals that are within those categories, because that's going to give you way more understanding than reading a book, watching videos, any of that. So one of the first things that I find when people reach out to me is they're asking, is this a good deal or not? And I understand that seems like that makes sense. Like, hey, it's like you look at a lot of deals, is this a good deal? The truth is you should never be asking that question. It's not about, is this a good deal or not? It's about when I'm going through the process, looking at all of the deals, is this the best deal possible? So when we're taking people through doing deals in the acquisition HOCO program, the average person's looking at over 100 deals to close one. And what ends up happening is when they come and we're looking at the deals, we're not just saying, is this a good deal or bad deal? Because that doesn't matter. The thing that matters is, hey, of all of my options, is this the best possible deal? And then secondarily, is this just in general meet due diligence? Because a good deal just means does it meet all of the due diligence parameters? But that just because it meets the due diligence parameters doesn't mean that it's the right deal for you to be closing. And most importantly, it doesn't mean that it's the best deal that you could be closing. So that's the first thing. And then the due diligence becomes secondary because the truth is, until you complete a full due diligence, you don't know if it's a good deal or bad deal. So anybody that tries to tell you that from just a high level thinking is not doing you a service because even if things look weird, like somebody could tell me on the surface, hey, it's got this multiple, they're willing to do finance this amount, da da da, and I could say, oh, that's an expensive deal. It's quote unquote a bad deal, but they hadn't done due diligence yet. So during due diligence, you realize, I mean, sometimes I have to tell y'all stories that I am completely ashamed of. We've got a business right now that we've had for years, and we have been emailing an email list that we thought was the full email list, and come to find out, they're just at some point some outsourcer had separated these lists, and so there were these other lists, and there were 11,000 more customers that we weren't aware of. That it's great to find, but we missed out on a lot of money those years that we didn't have that. So even as you're getting into looking at deals, when you're doing due diligence, the surface level stuff is just the basics. Like that's not the reality. What our job is, we talk a lot about this in PEFI and of course in ACO, but the real goal and what our skill set is finding what are the things within that business that make it an amazing deal. And so it could be something that doesn't look good on the surface, but you dig down in and realize, okay, this is an incredible deal. So a lot of beginners don't even have that first question answered of what do I want to go after to be able to generate the deal flow that so that you are looking at multiple things, creating a funnel and deciding between those things. And the really great thing is, like I said before, you understand the business is crucial, and you learning as you look at the deals. That's what's going to help you during your kind of deal making process. Is that you're looking at all of these businesses, learning a little bit from each one of them. Now, if you already own a business and you're basically looking to grow through acquisition, and I definitely recommend that you reach out to Good Merger because we help a lot of businesses do that. So you may be considering buying a similar one, or you may be considering buying a part of your supply chain or your distribution chain. There are all of these things that are kind of cool opportunities if you're already in a business, or even looking to start a business and want to have a bolt-on that complements that business and helps guarantee your success. Um, that is a really great place to be because you obviously have the expertise in that certain industry. And I would just recommend that you get the word out. And I think it's really great to find someone, whether it's Good Merger or not, who can help advise you, because buying a business is kind of taking on this other part-time job. Um, the other thing that I think is important is your goal is to buy a business, not a job. I think the other thing I see that comes up when I'm talking to people is that they are doing deals, but they're not doing the deals where someone else is going to run it for you. That's really crucial. People ask me like, "Hey, how do you do all these deals? How do you set up, all these different companies?" And one of the things that allows me to do is that I have private equity funds that have infrastructure to run those deals. I have other people that are running the business, and the goal that should be your goal. It's essential to set things up so that you work on the business while everybody else, your team or your partners or whoever you put in place is handling the day-to-day operations. Now, ideally, you're buying a business with that team in place. If you're not, then you want to make sure you're putting in place so that you aren't overwhelmed and you can focus on strategic growth, which hopefully includes growth through acquisition. Because that it's not just that buying a business is better; it's that it's not that just that buying a business is better on the front end. It's just that buying a business is better a strategy in general for increasing income. So if you're increasing your income from zero, it's a better strategy. If you're, growing a business and growing it from a million, it's a better strategy. So now we go to this next step. You know what type of business you want to buy. Let's find the potential sellers. So I know everybody's going to go for business brokers first. I don't, try to shame people away from that on the onset, but the goal is to get away from those. The great news is you can start to look at those potential deals and, and get some experience talking to sellers, begin to look at different potentials, getting an idea of what other people are selling, what the multiples are, and all that, and practice negotiating with that owner. But at the end of the day, no matter what, being able to connect with the owner directly is going to yield better results and better deals when you're negotiating. And this is for beginners as well as veterans. We want to go off market and approach owners that haven't advertised. And I know that a lot of people don't want to do that, which is why we, do that for them with Good Merger, because it's not even that you want to avoid the fee. It's that you just get a much better business long term. You get a much better deal than the one that's kind of been looked over by all these other people. Because the very best deal is just going to be one that someone has probably done as a pocket listing, as opposed to one where it's gone through that whole listing process. It's been sent to an email list. Just that whole thing ends up creating a very low likelihood of it being an amazing opportunity, and where you can find some of those hidden gems, like we talked about, that you can find in those direct deals. Even when, and this is kind of another key in this process, I would say maybe, like, if we're looking at these as steps, like a step four would be approaching those sellers very strategically. So I'm not necessarily a huge fan of like cold calling or spamming owners. Unfortunately, and this is the big downside. The big downside to so many people being interested in this, but not really knowing enough to pull the trigger, is that there's a lot of business owners that are just getting spammed to death by potential business buyers that aren't going to even close on a deal. So there's just a lot of other ways that we talk about that you can go after and connect with those folks. But the bottom line is you want to have a very structured conversation with the owner. Most of the other potential buyers are not doing that. Our goal is to um, be an asset. So we're gathering essential information about the business, but we're also looking to be a resource and asset to that seller. And that's something I'll talk more about in some upcoming videos. And after you get to that point, they feel like you're an asset. Then you get into negotiating the price and terms. And this is what, when we get into the consulting for equity and some of those other strategies, one of the really cool things that ends up, helping people get those deals is that they're coming at it from a place where that person values that relationship. But in general, in negotiating these deals, um, you know, everybody really focuses on the price, and I really focus on the terms. In general, I don't make direct offers. So I want to find out what that seller wants. And I want to use some, just different types of negotiation techniques, I would say, to create the right deal that's not about price. And the goal is to create something that makes both people really happy and really excited. I think, I'm more than happy to even pay full price when I have the right terms. When you get into step six, what you're trying to decide on is how you want to close this deal. And for most people, you are deciding between a asset purchase or a share purchase. Now, this is just a very high level. I wanted to just run through, like, this is when you're starting this process. These are the steps that you're going to go through. And so this is obviously, it's not legal advice and tax advice, and those are both advisors that you need when you're making this kind of decision. So first of all, you want to understand the difference between selling assets, buying assets, and selling shares and buying shares. For a lot of businesses, that are under $1 million of annual revenue, I think that I personally, I won't even say I recommend, but I think that I just in general always will do those as an asset purchase. It's just simpler, it's faster, helps avoid taking on unnecessary liabilities. So that's in general. Gets a little bit different when you get over those deals, and I think that's when you want to get some advisors to help you make those decisions. After that, you move to step seven, which is where a lot of people drop off because they're just excited to close a deal. And you want to develop the very clear plan. Planning is essential to every part of business, and it's really essential when you're buying a business. So the people who take the longest time are often the ones who are making it up as they go along. If you have a clear plan, you should be able to get those things done. We call it a 90-day sprint. Whenever we're closing the deal, we got a 90-day sprint that we're taking that thing through. We got to get the deal done. We're getting the deal done officially. We're, figuring out what we're going to do in that business, and we're moving forward. And then the last thing that I want to talk about today is the importance of staying determined, staying focused, and staying resilient. You know, you got to keep in mind there are always going to be some bumps along the way. Even when you're buying a business, it's a heck of a lot less than start a business from scratch. It's a lot easier. I don't even think it's a comparison, but you've got to be determined. You got to be resilient, and I think that's the key to being able to make a deal work. So be sure, if you're looking to get started with this process, check out the Solo Conglomerate 6-day free course. And if you're not a part of the Patreon, we'd love to have you. And I want to be the first that congratulates you when you buy your first business. So be sure to reach out whenever you close a deal. We love celebrating those folks. It's something we do a lot in the Acquisition Holdco, but I love to do it here as well. Thank you all for checking out this video. Subscribe. Be sure to like, say hello in the comments, and I will talk to y'all